90 warships die in 4 hours, and the Vurr kill almost none of them. A Terra dreadnought, 11 kilometers of patient armor, the anchor of every war its species ever fought, splits along its spine because an off-him wing read "Hold" as we are already moving. Human gunners paint a friendly hull and fire because the lumen do not speak in sound, they speak in light, flashed from their own plating, and no human eye in that formation is built to read it. An Ardennes battle line unfolds like a proof, elegant, inevitable, into empty space, because its clocks run on a different second than the fleet it is dying to protect. 5 navies, 5 doctrines, 5 command grammars, 4 sensory worlds, 3 incompatible clock cultures, and 1 enemy. They came together for the oldest reason in diplomacy, a bigger wolf. The Vurr hegemony spent 30 years eating the spiral arm, one species at a time, and the species of the arm, who spent those same 30 years pricing each other's borders and nursing each other's grudges, all arrived in the same terrible decade at the same arithmetic. Alone, everyone loses. In order of size. So the treaty gets signed by 5 powers with nothing in common but the wolf. The founding communiqué promises 1,100 hulls, the largest force ever assembled in the arm, and the arm reads it and breathes out for the first time in 10 years. The Vurr read it too. Their War Council's assessment survives. It hangs framed today in the school this story founded, the enemy's contribution to the curriculum. 1,100 hulls, 5 grammars. This is not a fleet, it is a parade with weapons. Engage it early, before it learns to talk. A fleet is not ships, a fleet is agreement, at speed. They have none. The Vurr were right. They were also 4 hours too late to matter, because somebody in that burning parade was already writing the sentence that would end them. The Battle of the Skein proved the Vurr right in 4 hours, and it remains the most studied defeat in 5 navies' academies, because the Allies outnumbered the enemy 3-2 and were routed without the enemy doing anything clever at all. The combined fleet met the Vurr advance at the Skein Nebula in good order, 5 contingents, a joint battle plan translated painstakingly into 5 languages, and liaison officers with translation arrays on every flagship. Then the battle started moving, as battles do, and the plan's translations began to kill. The catastrophe's anatomy filled 11 volumes of joint inquiry, but its heart was minutes and meanings. The Ardennes command grammar had no imperative mood between suggestion and irrevocable commitment. Human orders translated into Ardennes arrived sounding optional. And Ardennes confirmations translated into human standard arrived sounding like refusal. The word "the" translation arrays rendered as "acknowledge" was, in Terra battle register, the formal signal for request denied, a discovery made at the worst possible moment by a human squadron that wheeled into a gap the Terra line had just, it believed, declined to open. The OFIM, whose time sense ran faster than any allies, treated a pause of 4 seconds as assent, and executed. The Terra, whose deliberative cadence made 4 seconds a comma, had not yet finished the sentence. And the lumen, flashing urgent warnings in light down the Allied line, watched 3 fleets' worth of sound speakers, none of whose sensor doctrine treated hull glow as traffic, sail unheeding through the very ambush their allies were illuminating. There were 17 friendly fire incidents, none malicious, all grammatical. 2 collisions. 1 Ardennes division held formation per its last unambiguous order, while the battle left without it, its commander's log recording, with terrible correctness, awaiting clarification. The combined fleet lost 90 hulls in the Skein, and the alliance nearly died of what the after-action reports called, in 5 languages, the same word, Babel. In the human contingent's signals bay, a chief coordinator named Lena Kovac spent the battle doing what human talkers do in catastrophe, patching, rephrasing, improvising human voices between flagships as living translation, and her section, all witnesses agree, saved what was saved. Her after-action submission ran 1 page, and its first sentence took the alliance's problem away from the diplomats forever. "We did not lose a battle," she wrote. "We lost a conversation, and conversations, honored commanders, are an engineering problem." Kovac's page, forwarded up 5 chains of command by officers who had just watched Grammar kill 90 ships, laid out the diagnosis with a signals chief's bluntness, and it has been the founding text of joint operations ever since. Translation, she argued, was the wrong tool, and always would be. Translation carries meaning between cultures, and meaning is huge, freighted with mood, rank, history, metaphor, the 10,000 assumptions each species called common sense. Battle could not afford meaning. Battle needed something far smaller and far harder, unambiguous coordination, at speed, across sensory worlds, under fire, and this, she wrote, is not the art of understanding each other. It is the art of maneuvering together, and those are different arts. We do not need a bridge between 5 languages. We need a 6th thing built for one purpose, owned by no one, learnable by anyone, and too small to lie in. The Alliance, out of alternatives, gave her the commission, a joint working group, hosted aboard the human signal ship Argot, 5 species worth of signal officers, linguists, and, at Kovac's specific insistence, musicians, an inclusion 4 delegations queried, and the Lumen, alone, applauded in light. Humanity's chairing of the group was resented at first and defended by Kovac in the plenary session, with the argument that became the Alliance's fondest self-description. "You are each superb at your own language," she told the delegations, "and that is precisely the disqualification. My species has spent its entire history misunderstanding itself in 4,000 tongues. We have been translating badly, apologizing, and trying again since before we had wheels. We are not chairing this because we are wise, colleagues. We are chairing it because we are the galaxy's most experienced fools. Nobody alive knows more than humans do about being misunderstood and surviving it. That is our military specialty. We are donating it." The working group's first 3 months produced 400 pages of failure, every proposal built from someone's words and every species' words carrying someone else's poison. The breakthrough, when it came from the musicians, and it did not use words at all. They called it the chord, and its principle, once found, was so simple that 5 navies were embarrassed together, which the diplomats privately rated the Alliance's first genuine, shared experience. Every allied species, whatever its senses, perceived ratio. Some speakers heard intervals. The Lumen saw them in flicker rate. The Chur, slow in speech, perceived rhythmic proportion with a precision no fast species matched. Even the Ophim's rushing time sense, which mangled every ally's cadence, handled relative interval flawlessly, tempo independent, the mathematics of harmony being the one clock every nervous system in the Alliance kept the same way. So the chord was built, not from words, but from intervals, a battle language of 200 signals, each a short tonal figure defined by its internal ratios, valid at any tempo, in any medium, sung, flashed, pulsed on a drive, tapped on a hull, so that each species could speak it at its own speed, in its own element, and every other species received it unchanged. The vocabulary was ruthless. 200 signals, closed, no synonyms, no honorifics, no metaphor, and, the design rule that survived the fiercest fight, no negation, the working group, after the acknowledge, refuse catastrophe, banished no from the language entirely. The chord could not refuse, it could only redirect, every alternative to compliance being itself a positive command, hold instead, or unable, alternative follows, because a fleet under fire, Kovac ruled from the chair, has no time to pass what is not happening. Tell each other what is. The grammar fit on one card, the card fit in one pocket. The first complete utterance in the new language, transmitted between an Ardan proof ship and a Lumen flasher at the working group's 101st session, was logged with all 5 delegations as witnesses, and the logline is now engraved on the Argot's plaque. Signal 1, all ships attend, followed by signal 44, form on me, followed by signal 200, which the musicians had insisted upon over every military objection, and which the Alliance's crews within a year would prove the musicians right about 1,000 times over. Well done, all. A language is nothing until it lives in throats, and the chord was carried into 5 fleets by the strangest specialty the war produced, the talkers. They were Kovacs' transitional core, human signals ratings mostly, the species donating its foolishness again, embedded on every Allied flagship and squadron leader, living switchboards for the months, while 5 Navy's crews drilled the 200 signals into reflex. The talker school aboard the Argot ran continuous intakes, young humans learning to hold 4 species liaison channels at once and render everything instantly into chord and back. And learning, above all, the school's single sacred doctrine, the calm voice, because the first page of the talker manual said, "You are about to be the nervous system of 1,100 ships. Nervous systems do not get to sound nervous." The drills were chaos, then comedy, then, unexpectedly, joy. The first joint exercise under chord protocol produced 40 errors an hour and 1 collision alarm. The fourth produced 6 errors. The 9th produced a thing no Allied officer had experienced, a 5-species formation wheel executed clean on 3 signals in 11 seconds, and the exercise umpires lobbed spontaneous cross-fleet transmission of signal 200 from 90 hulls, which was against protocol and which no one, from 5 admiralties down, could be induced to regret. And each species, learning the 6th thing, found its own gift hidden inside. The Terra, slowest speakers in the Alliance, discovered that pre-composed chord sequences let them deliver complex orders as fast as anyone, their gunline captains becoming the language's great composers, issuing battle plans as figured progressions of terrible elegance. The OFIM skirmish squadrons, uncommandable in any ally's tongue, took to interval speech like birds to a thermal. And the Lumen, who had waited politely through every sound-based failure, revealed what light could do with a ratio language. Whole battle transmissions flashed hull to hull down a formation at the speed of sight, unjammable, silent, beautiful, the capability every fleet would come to call after the battle that proved it, the lantern line. By spring, the talkers were reporting the metric Kovac had defined as victory, their own falling relevance. The fleets were beginning to dream in it, an Ardan liaison confessed formally as though reporting a malfunction. The Vurr, watching the Allied exercises from long range, updated their assessment. The parade is drilling. Engage it now. The Vurr offensive came in the summer, at the Loom, the junction nebula whose lanes tied the arm's inner systems together, and it came as the hegemony's main effort, 900 hulls, a third of their war strength, committed to shattering the Allied fleet before its drilling matured. They were 4 months too late. The Battle of the Loom was the first engagement in the history of the arm fought by 5 species as one instrument, and the surviving Vurr battle logs, studied since by every power in the region, read less like tactical records than like naturalists describing a new animal. The Allied fleet, their flag analysis complained in the second hour, has ceased to behave as a coalition. Contingents hand each other, the battle like organs of one body. Deception is impossible, feints that would fracture any Allied command are absorbed and answered in seconds. Assess the enemy has solved joint command. Method unknown. The method was audible and visible everywhere on the Allied side, the chord, running through 1,100 hulls at the tempo of each speaker and the understanding of all. A human squadron feinted at the Vurr center and opened a gap, and signal 71, opportunity, axis follows, sung from the human flagship, brought the Ardan main line pivoting through the gap in a proof-perfect wheel that Ardan doctrine could never have translated into a request fast enough to matter. OFIM's skirmish weather, stooping on the Vurr flank, was recalled mid-dive, redirected and relaunched at a fresh bearing by 3 chords, 11 seconds, a redirection that would have taken, at the Skein, 4 minutes and a diplomatic incident. And the Terra anchor line, engaged frontally by the Vurr's heaviest column, transmitted a single composed progression, and the Allies heard, at every tempo at once, the old species' first battle poetry in the new tongue. Signal 12, we hold. Signal 12 repeated, we hold. Signal 88, build your victory on us. The Vurr, whose entire strategic tradition was the defeat of coalitions in detail, found no seams. There were no seams. There was one animal, singing to itself in ratios, and it was learning their rhythm faster than they could change it. So the Vurr commander, no fool, stopped attacking the animal and attacked the song. The Vurr's counterstroke at the loom's 6th hour was aimed with real insight at the language itself, a massed electronic assault, every jamming and deception asset of 900 hulls concentrated on the Allied coordination bands, the relay network's masternodes physically targeted, and the fleet's main channels drowned in a synthetic roar built. Their logs confirm, from recordings of the cord itself, the enemy singing the Allies' own signals back at them, corrupted, false chords in a counterfeit voice. For 11 minutes, the animal lost its nervous system, and the skein began, in miniature, to happen again, contingents coasting on last orders, seams opening, the Vurr columns driving for the gaps with the confidence of a hunter who has silenced the birds. What answered them was the language's deepest design, and the two redundancies Kovac's working group had built beneath the machinery because the chair had ruled over every efficiency objection, that a fleet's grammar must survive the death of its electronics. The first redundancy was the talkers. On every Allied flagship, the human switchboards, half idle for months as the fleets outgrew them, put on their headsets and became the network, voice relay, ship to ship. On the low bands and laser links the jamming assault had rated too slow to matter, human calm threading the roar, rephrasing, confirming, passing chords by throat down chains of 5 species, the nervous system running for 11 minutes on nerves. And the second redundancy was light. The lumen, unjammable by anything that did not blind the sky itself, opened the lantern line. The cord in hull flash, relayed contingent to contingent at the speed of sight. Lumen ships stationing themselves at the fleet seams as living semaphore towers, and the Allied formations drilled for months in a ratio language that any medium could carry, took their orders off their allies' shining hulls and closed the seams in the Vurr's face. The enemy's own log records the moment their counterstroke died, and the Alliance has never found a better witness, jamming assault fully effective for 11 minutes. Enemy coordination continued regardless, carried by, this office is aware how this reads, singing and lamplight. Assessment, the language is not in their equipment, it is in them. Withdraw. The loom broke the Vurr offensive and, the historians of 5 species agree, decided the war, though the war itself ground on for 3 more years of campaigns that the Alliance, having become an animal, fought with an animal's economy. The hegemony's great advantage had always been the loneliness of its victims. The armed species had been defeated, one at a time, for 30 years. After the loom, there was no one at a time. There was Signal 12, we hold, and Signal 88, build your victory on us, and a fleet whose 5 doctrines had stopped being seams and become, in the Vurr staff's final strategic review, the appalling truth about our adversary. 5 ways of being right, coordinated. Fleet Standard, 2nd edition, was promulgated within the year, its wartime revisions written directly out of the loom's lessons, the lantern line formalized, the talker core made permanent, mixed rather than human, the Alliance having concluded that living switchboards were too important to be one species donation, and the jamming fallbacks drilled quarterly by every formation in 5 navies, exercises the crews called, universally and with affection, choir practice. Kovac declined command of the language. Her refusal, to the Alliance's joint board, became the working group's last founding document. A language belongs to its speakers, or it is a cage. I was the chair, while it was an engineering problem. It is now a culture, and cultures need gardeners, not chairs. Recommend the Standards Office rotate among all 5 powers forever, and recommend the office's title reflect what we actually built, which was never a code, it was a commons. The office rotates to this day, its title adopted as recommended in all 5 languages and in the 6th, the Commons of Signals. and Signal 200 escaped the military entirely, as the musicians had always predicted. Well done all. 3 notes, ratio fixed, tempo free, began appearing at the ends of things. Concerts first in the Lumen worlds, flashed by audiences, then harvest festivals, graduations, ship launchings, the close of treaties, until within a generation it had become the arm's shared punctuation for any completed labor, 5 species and then more, ending their day's work with the same small chord. Most of them no longer knowing they were quoting a battle language, which the veterans of the loom asked how they felt about the drift, universally endorsed. That was always the mission, Kovac said, at the last reunion she attended. Agreement, at speed. The rest is tempo. The peace, when it finally came, was negotiated in fleet standard. Not by design, by drift. The armistice talks with the broken hegemony opened in the traditional babble of translation arrays, protocol officers, and 5 delegations worth of incompatible diplomatic registers, and stalled inside a month on disputes that were, the mediators slowly realized, largely grammatical, the old poison of meaning, mood, and honorific, the freight the court had been designed to leave on the dock. It was the Vurr delegation, of all parties, that broke the deadlock. Their senior negotiator, a former fleet commander who had spent the war's last years listening to the Allied animals sing, requesting formally that the technical annexes be drafted in the enemy's coordination language, whose signals cannot lie about scope, and which this delegation, it is no longer a secret, taught itself from battle intercepts out of professional respect. The final instruments were drafted bilingually, each power's language for the poetry, the preambles and the grievances and the hopes, and fleet standard for the machinery, the borders, the timetables, the verification protocols, everything that had to mean one thing to 6 signatories forever. The practice spread as the chord always spread, by working trade compacts first, then navigation law, then the arm's whole commercial infrastructure, until chord speak, as the merchants call it, became the region's contractual lingua franca, the language nobody loves and everybody trusts, the tongue too small to lie in. The linguists of 5 species have written libraries about the strangeness of it. The arm's common language, the first in its history, is 200 signals with no word for beauty, no word for grief, no word for home, and, its speakers point out, no word for enemy either, the working group having never needed one, and the peace has run on it for 3 generations. Asked, late in life, whether it saddened her that her language could not say the important things, Lena Kovac gave the answer. The Commons of Signals opens its every session by reading. It says, the important things, she said. It says, attend. It says, form on me. It says, we hold. It says, build your victory on us. It says, well done, all. Colleagues, I have buried friends of 5 species, and I am telling you from the far end of everything, that is not a small vocabulary. That is the entire vocabulary. Everything else is commentary, and commentary is what the peace is for. The Argot is preserved at the Alliance's joint anchorage, the unlovely signal ship where the 6th language was built, and she is the arm's strangest shrine. 5 species cadets are brought aboard every year to the plane compartment where the working group failed for 3 months and then did not, and the pilgrimage ends at the plaque with the first utterance, all ships attend. Form on me, well done, all, which the cadets, by a tradition no academy invented, and none would dare, end, sing, flash, pulse, or tap, each in their own element, together. The Talker School runs still, mixed species now for 3 generations, and its manual's first page still carries the calm voice doctrine, and its graduation ceremony ends with the recording every talker earns the right to hear as a colleague. 11 minutes from the 6th hour of the loom, the jamming roar and threading through it, steady as a heartbeat, the young human voice is passing chords down the chains, the nervous system running on nerves, and at minute 11, as the jamming breaks and the fleet song comes back, a single talker, name long since worn off the log, audibly exhaling before the next relay, the only unprofessional second in 11 minutes, preserved unedited by 5. And once a year, at the anniversary of the loom, the whole arm performs its only universal ritual, unlegislated, unstoppable. At the hour the lantern line opened, Every ship in civilized space, warship, freighter, ferry, liner, whatever its flag, whatever its species, flashes or sounds or pulses, signal 200 to whatever ships share its sky. Well done all. It takes 3 notes. It crosses every border in the arm in one evening. And somewhere in the commons of signals, founding records, in a human hand, on the one-page memo that started everything, the sentence the whole ritual answers is still on file, still true, still, by standing order, the first thing every signals officer of 5 navies is taught. We did not lose a battle, we lost a conversation. And conversations, honored commanders, are an engineering problem. If this story stayed with you, subscribe. A new one leaves Earth every day.